Good evening and welcome again to Ideas at Work and Beyond. You know, I go about my day, I run my painting business, I come home after a long day of work, and what do I have to see on TV but a former United States President, Jimmy Carter, telling me essentially that anyone who has any reservations whatsoever about President Obama taking over 1/6 of the economy and introducing the efficiencies that we see at the United States Postal Service into our health care program, and promising us somehow that when they weed out the waste and efficiency of the former run government health care program, that there'll somehow be $900 billion worth of savings that are going to pay for the yet further takeover of the government of the health care program. If anyone has any reservations about that, this is what the former President of the United States had to say. He said, "I think an overwhelming portion of the intensely demonstrated animosity towards President Barack Obama is based on the fact that he is a black man, that he is an African American." This is a former President of the United States accusing people that oppose the President of being racist. He goes on to say, "Racism still exists, and I think that it's bubbled up to the surface because of a belief among many white people, not just in the South, but around the country, that African Americans are not qualified to lead this great country. It's an abominable circumstances, and it grieves me and concerns me very deeply." Those are the words of the former President of the United States, Jimmy Carter. In this very studio, on this very show, we had not one, not two, I think we had 3 programs celebrating the fact that the United States of America overwhelmingly voted for and elected an African American man to the highest office in our country. I guess my question for the former President of the United States is, when do we get beyond, if you disagree with someone, that it's somehow a racist concern, or that your motivation is questioned as being racist? We celebrated the inauguration of our president. We talked about how, in the world's eye, this reboots everything. I think that we need to turn the page on this and talk about health care reform, talk about cap and trade, talk about an expanding and all-inclusive government that's going to promise good things from the cradle to the grave. Let's have a debate on that and not try to divert it into some talk about racism. And furthermore, too, we had the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who came on today, and she got all teared up about something that happened in the 1970s when there was heated political debate in San Francisco. I think I saw that show. Didn't Sean Penn win the Academy Award on that one?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Did you see the movie?
Yeah, I did see the movie.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
Tragic.
Sean Penn's a good. It's a tragic story. But I mean, you know, when you're losing the debate on health care and things aren't going your way, to fall back on a situation and say, oh, it's just due to racism, or Nancy Pelosi saying, oh, the debate's getting too heated, pretty soon there's going to be violence. It seems to me we're in a democracy, we're all adults, we've made incredible strides on the race issue, we have an African American in the White House, and he's universally applauded. The state of Iowa is 98% Caucasian, and they overwhelmingly voted for Barack Obama. I'm proud Barack Obama is our president. I have some real reservations about this health care program and the takeover of the government of various different sizes of different places in our economy, but it has absolutely nothing to do with his race. So that, to me, is the outrage of the week. Jimmy Carter coming on and trying to indicate that anyone who has a problem with Barack Obama is a racist. That's my outrage. By the way, there are others at this table that have a different opinion, and since we are fair and open and balanced, we're going to see lots of different opinions. But on the march in Washington, I have my pictures, Al has his pictures, and by the way, you have your witnesses, and I just have pictures. Yeah. The phone number here is 792-4101, 792-4101. If you'd like to call in and agree with me, by all means do. If you don't, lose the number. No, I'm kidding. But that's the phone number. And if you had, David, if you have those pictures, we talk about what's going on in Washington. You know, there is sort of this elite media out there that wants to just ignore what's going on. We had a debate going back and forth, and I spent a lot of time researching exactly how many people were there. It turns out that the Million-Man March on Washington back in 1994 wasn't apparently 1 million men. It was more like 400,000. It was a good showing. But ever since then, the United States Park Authority, or what are they called?
That's a good one. Yeah, that's good enough.
Parks Authority, they no longer get in the game of deciding how many people were at these meetings, because everyone gets upset because there's buying different things. All I can tell you is there was a whole heck of a lot of people down there. Some have speculated anywhere from 70,000 to 1.7 million. Somewhere in that tight range, you choose. But the fact of the matter is they were out there. They were holding up signs like, "Hey, Obama, here's a tip, keep the change," referring to his campaign promise for a change. There's a guy with a cowboy hat, looks like a wonderful American. There are others talking about liberty and life, waving the American flag. There you have that flag that was one of the first colonial flags, one of the first revolutionary flags. It says, "Don't tread on me." And it was the 13 colonies all together, and it was a snake. And if you step on our liberties, there's a tradition in America that says we're going to stand up for our rights as free citizens. There's one that has George Washington opening up his arms, asking a question that I think is good. The upside-down American flag is a universal sign of distress. And that's what the people are saying. They're distressed by their government. They're distressed by a further takeover of their freedom by their government. That's what happened in Washington. I'm personally outraged at personally being called a racist by a former president of the United States. I might be many things. I might not be the brightest light on the bulb or the sharpest knife in the drawer. But one thing I'm not is racist. And anyone who has a political debate with me that you know, turns to the race card is going to get knocked in the head by me.
Hey, no violence. Take it easy now. This is not hockey here.
I was outraged when I saw that. Anyways, the rest of the, we also have, I don't know if you want to go into your slides now on this issue, or you want to go right to Bethel politics, because I have some interesting stuff.
Well, let's see. You did pretty good this week. You're only on 8 minutes. It's not bad. That's not bad.
The brightest star is Brian.
Okay, now, hey, Dave, can you do me a favor? And we're in this camera over here. Yeah. Can you pop up image number 30, please? Number 30. 30. Is that it right there? No, pop me up the one of the crowd. That's the one I want to see. I think it's image number 30. The crowd down there in D.C. Well, good. There we go. There we go. There we go. Now look. Let's talk about this here for a second. What's wrong? Is something wrong with your neck?
No, I'm cringing because
you should cringe. This is awful.
There were some doctored photographs.
Doctored photographs? Let's tell you, this was what's going on here. Okay. This image right here was done by Michelle. Was posted by Michelle Malkin and a bunch of other conservative websites, trying to bolster the belief there is 1.5 million people at this rally. Now look, as you know, because I talked about this on this show back in January or February, I actually went down to see Barack Obama get sworn into office, and I can tell you what 1.5 to 2 million people look like. And and when you're there, it is packed when there's a lot of people, especially millions of people. All right, this image right here, they tried to claim that this was from the rally. Well, actually, it was not. This is an image from 1997 from a completely different rally. And this rally right here only had, I think, maybe 500 or 600,000 people in it max. This is not from the rally, but this is some of the misinformation that was being presented from conservative groups saying that this is how many people were at their rally. Now,
are you telling our highly educated audience that there are doctored photos floating around the internet?
This is not a doctored photo. This is an actual photo from an actual event that happened down there in Washington, but it's from 1997. And for people who really know D.C., you can tell that's from 1997 because there's certain buildings and stuff that are there now that are not there in this image. So that was an easy way to debunk this nonsense. Also,
do you agree there was a rally?
Oh, yeah, there was a rally, but
Do you agree that there was a whole heck of a lot of people out there?
Come on, you had 7 minutes. Give me 1 minute here. All right, thanks. Okay, Matt Kibble, who's the president of Freedom Works, during the rally, stated that ABC News said that there was 1.5 million people there at this event. ABC News, this quote from Mr. Kibble, who is, again, the president of Freedom Works, the organization that put on this group that's supported by a lot of lobbyists in the healthcare industry, hint, hint, put out this information that spread like wildfire on the blogs, and ABC got really ticked off by it because they didn't say that. They didn't say anything remotely like this. This is something that's right here that I emailed Marty earlier today. They said the approximate figure from the D.C. fire department, which are the people who, you know, they kind of know, if you know anything about D.C., you know anything about the Capitol and the whole area, you can kind of guess approximately the figure because there's certain you can do you can do flyovers and guess by the size of the crowd how many people are there. Make a long story short, they said ABC News said there was 60 to 70,000 people there, and Freedom Works had to come back and say, well, look, we screwed up, we lied. This is the type of misinformation that's just rampant on both sides upon this debate. So when you hear people say 1.5 million, it's just wrong. And one more quick.
Charles Gibson on ABC News?
Well, he's retiring.
No, I know, but I'm just surprised he had the time.
ABCnews.com. ABCnews.com.
I know, but they were doing their in-depth undercover story on Acorn.
No,
let's tear themselves away from that to do the count.
You had 8 minutes, Marty. Okay. Now, image number 32. Dave, can you pull that one up for me real quick, pretty please? Let's look at this right here. This is one of the images here that was at this rally. So when you hear Marty say, hey, Jimmy Carter is saying that anybody who's opposed to health care towards Barack Obama is a racist, that's not necessarily true. What President Carter was stating is that there is an element of racism, an undertone of racism and just vile, disgusting rhetoric, whether it is health care or back during the election with Sarah Palin and John McCain, some of the imagery that we saw during the end of the campaign, which was very dangerous. Dave, can you pop up image number 34, please, if you could? This type of stuff is what the President Carter was relating to or talking about. It's not about the debate. It's about how you make your point during the debate. There's no need for images like that. And if I was at a rally, if I was an organizer of a rally, and I saw something like that, I'll say, hey, look, take that down. It has nothing to do with the debate. That type of stuff is not needed in discussion of any type in this country. We shouldn't tolerate it, and I would expect Marty and other people on the other side of the political aisle who organize these rallies to denounce it and say, take that stuff down. We don't want to have anything to do with that because next thing you know, there's going to be people associating us with those type of imagery.
I agree with that. On the same token, you had General Petraeus that came back and did a report on the Iraq War, and one of your leading blogs came out and called him General Betray Us. You've seen countless images of George Bush with a Hitler mustache, and you've seen it on the other side.
But one side doesn't necessarily mean that the other side is right. We're just saying we should just denounce it, and if you're the organizer of an event, Dave, can you please put up image number 35, if you could, please. If you are the person behind organizing these events and you see stuff like that, you tell people, pull that stuff down. And hopefully Dave will have this image from the Bridgeport Tea Party that should pop up. Now look, this is from the Bridgeport Tea Party that happened on 9/11. 9/11, ladies and gentlemen. It's bad enough that you're doing a rally, a partisan or a political rally on 9/11. I think that's outrageous. Can you pop that up again, please? Just leave it up there for a second. Now look what it says here. 9/11, never forget, never forgive. Now,
so far, so good.
So far, so good. Nazism equals communism equals Islam with two S's that are drawn as the Hitler SS symbols. Same fascist tactics, same fascist goals, same false prophets. Now look, ladies and gentlemen, let's be honest here. You can take that down. There were hundreds and hundreds of victims, family members on 9/11 who were mourning in New York City who are of Islamic faith because their relatives died on 9/11 in the World Trade Center. Now, you know, people of all origins, of all religions, died on that day. And to put up something like that on 9/11 is beyond distasteful. And that type of stuff should be denounced and taken down and taken out of the debate. But that's the stuff people see, and even worse, that's the stuff that people on the mainstream media keep plugging on the shows and on the news clippings because it makes the whole country look bad as a whole.
Okay, look, What you have there are images. I utterly and completely renounce them.
But that's what President Carter was talking about. He wasn't talking about the whole broad debate and all. He's talking about that type of imagery, the pictures of Obama in a Nazi outfit. This goes back towards the campaign. This goes well beyond health care. Why is there a need for that type? Why is there a need to try to compare Barack Obama's presidency to Nazism or communism? It is outrageous. Those are the type of words that are just way over the top, and does not need to be in the debate about health care, illegal immigration, the economy, or any topics like that.
When you start talking about terms like communism and fascism and communism is essentially the expansion of the government for different control. And then you also have, what was the guy's name who was the head of the Green Initiative, one of the czars that just resigned?
You tell me.
I forget his name. What was he? It was on TV, and he was also a member of different communist organizations before he came, and now he's in power.
Okay.
So some of these concerns are legitimate concerns.
When you see a symbol of Nazi, when you see a symbol of the SS on 9/11 on a sign in Bridgeport, and when you see the Nazi symbol and socialist symbols and communist symbols, remember, we're talking about a fast food generation who's not really thinking real in-depth about this stuff. Symbolism means fear, means mongering, stuff that does not need to be in a debate about health care.
Okay, neither if you disagree with a position that they're having, should you be called a racist either.
Again, the imagery of what President Carter was talking about was maybe like a shirt of a monkey that says Obama in 08, remember that? Or the Obama flakes that Lou Dobbs held up and said, oh, I love these waffle flakes. You know, those type of imageries, the stepping and fetching imagery of Obama. I can put up a lot on the website if you want to.
You come from it from a...
Look at this. You know how many people had that sign? Or how about...
I don't know. Actually, this is the first time I've seen those signs. And you can pick this stuff up on the internet. I'm telling you, that's the first time I've seen that sign. Hold on one second.
Wow, we're taking up a lot of time.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we got to...
I think we've beaten this up enough.
Yeah.
I'm still upset about what Jimmy Carter had to say. All right, we just also had an election in Bethel. There was a Republican primary on September 15th. We've had all the candidates appeared on this show. Larry Kravis won over Robert Burke with 539 votes for Kravis and 376 votes for Bob Burke. He was essentially defeated by his own party, and he also lost overwhelmingly in the primary that they had. Well, the caucus didn't endorse him. Jeez Louise. Caller, you're on the air. Are you there, caller?
Liberal schizophrenic delusions are coming from your side, Marty. Liberal schizophrenic delusions. How many signs like that were out in the protest? 2 or 3 or 4?
I can tell you there was quite a few.
No, they're just embellishing on a few people that did that, and they probably engineered it themselves. Some of the leftists probably infiltrated. I wouldn't put it past them. How about the Million Man March? I remember that.
I think I remember that.
That's actually when the U.S. Park Service stopped counting.
No, who really cares? But this guy's, he surrounds himself by Marxists and socialists, and Marty just gave that example.
What's the guy's name that I couldn't remember?
Yeah, he says, how many more are left?
Yeah, I don't know.
Marty, I have this black congressman from Georgia. He's a Democrat, obviously, who would be glad to come on your show. I spoke with his aide. He recently said that many black congressmen have this affinity for socialism. So I spoke with his aide, and hopefully I'll get him on if you have an interest.
All right. Have your people call my people. All right. Thanks a lot.
Better yet. Maybe,
okay.
I'm not going that.
So that was the outcome of the election in Bethel. I think it was really a pleasure to have all the different candidates on the show. We have Dan Gaeta, who's on the show. He served in the United States Marine Corps, which we appreciate.
Thank you.
You are a supporter of Bob Burke, and you have something that you want to talk about briefly, because we also have a state senator that's coming on as well. But first of all, let me just ask, what is the reaction of Bob Burke and his party and his group in this defeat in the primary?
Bob Burke is planning on taking this all the way to November, because something that Bob offers that the other two candidates do not offer is the focus on the people of Bethel in general. And for full disclosure, for Al, I am Bob Burke's treasurer for his campaign.
Boy.
Okay. He's going to the election.
But I mean, at some point, you know, when you say that we represent Bethel, Bethel has spoken, at least a portion of it in the Republican Party has definitely spoken. And they don't want their incumbent candidate, you know, running for re-election. They don't want him to be the standard bearer for the Republican Party. At what point, for the good of the party, is the discussion had that, well, maybe we should throw our support behind, you know, who's running?
May I expound?
Please.
All right. You couldn't have let in this better with the talks about what's going on in Washington and the debate that you guys had, and here's why. I actually started this whole venture as a resident of Bethel, listening to people talk about Bob Burke as being the mean guy in the cowboy boots, the jeans, and the shirt in town hall, and I went down there and wanted to find out for myself what's going on. Okay. I went down there to find out if the rumors were true and who was this guy running the government. And it turns out that he's the only guy who opened the door and listened to me and actually answered my questions. Mm-hmm. And in that process of searching for the truth, I ended up uncovering more than anyone in Bethel really wants to talk about. Specifically, we talk about the Board of Education. There was this continual perpetuation that the Board of Education and the Bethel High School was on probation in 1998. That is a flat-out lie. And for Al's happiness and full disclosure, I have the email from the New England Association of Schools and Colleges stating that Bethel High School was never on probation, never lost accreditation prior to March of 2004. That whole thing pushed ahead this frenzy of parental support to get the town behind what will now be a $30+ million renovation project for the high school. In exposing that, Matthew Knickerbocker, who is now the candidate for selecting on the Democratic side,
a very unified,
got up in front of the town of Bethel in October of 2003, told the people that the classroom sizes were going to be increasing by hundreds of students, that doing the gymnasium would reduce the cost of construction, that the Ed Specs book was this great big document, but it wasn't. And I exposed this, and I asked the Board of Education for 6 months, can you explain this? To the point where Eileen Fitzgerald just completed an article where she went and she again stated that the school was on probation in 1998. That is false. They were not. I called up Eileen. I said, where did you get your information? Eileen said, well, New England Association of Schools and Colleges said if the superintendent says that's true, then it's true. I have the letters.
So what you're saying is the schools weren't that bad, or they're better now under Burke's administration? What are you saying?
I'm kind of going through a whole thing here.
All right, well,
basically,
speed it up.
Okay, here you go. That is the Board of Education side.
Right.
And where this ties back into what you're talking about is how they're assassinating the messenger of truth. The Democratic Town Committee put up on their website information that Bob Burke did not accept the lowest responsible bidder for their paramedic intercept program.
Okay, and that's not true.
That's not true,
okay,
and I'll
tell
you.
Next?
Well, let me.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, why isn't that not true?
No,
the lowest responsible bidder was a convicted felon. The next person in line, and I have the documentation here to show it. The next thing is the big doozy. This ties back into the election. There are, and I want to get these questions answered, and I had hoped that Nick Ellis would show up on the show and answer these questions. Specifically, you have the Republican Town Committee, and this is why Bob Burke swayed away from the Republican Town Committee amongst many other reasons. Nick Ellis is a convicted criminal. He has a record of assault. I have that here too. He has a record for loitering on school property. He was 28 years old. Evidently, he beat a 17-year-old student. His brother, John Lennon, has a criminal record for...
Let me just interject for just 1 second here. I read about a lot of this stuff. We've seen it on your website. We hear a lot of stuff. I've read it on some of the comment sections of the News Times. Let's just get right down to the quick point here. The people of Bethel, the Republicans within Bethel, voted in the caucus, voted in the primary to not have Bob Burke be on the top of the ticket. Now, going forth in the general election, you have a situation here where you have Bob Burke, you have Larry Kravis, and you have Matt Knickerbocker. And some of the concerns among some people in the town committee and among some Republicans I talked to during primary night is that you'll have what's called a Ralph Nader effect. And Bob Burke can actually turn out being a spoiler and hurt the party in terms of holding on to that seat, holding on to the Republican seat.
Listen to the Republican strategy.
Now, in terms of what's best for the party itself, why do you feel that that is an unfair point to bring up? Do you feel that Bob Burke being in the race now, seeing that he has lost in the caucus, has lost in the primary. I think it was 57 to 41%. Do you explain to me why you still think that it is fair to have Bob Burke into this race and he won't split the ticket and let Matt in?
Because America is a democracy. It's not about the Republican Party. It's not about the Democratic Party. It's about who is the person that has been telling the truth to the people, that is keeping their taxes lower, that has gotten things done that were promised, and that isn't a partisan politician that's pandering to what the Democratic special interests say or the Republican special interests say. Bob Burke's the only guy with his partner Bill Slifkin. They have proven, they have shown through their accomplishments.
All right, that's a very impassioned, dissertation on behalf of Bob Burke, and everything that he does is good and right, and everything his opponents done are wrong. But the fact of the matter is, in the enlightened self-interest of a majority of the Republicans that came out to vote, he was defeated. So I would think that these people have looked into some of this stuff as well, have weighed it in the balance, and decided they want to turn the page.
He was tried by the News Times for 2 weeks prior to the primary and has never had a chance to defend himself in a court of law. And that is a big that is going to turn out to be a very big issue moving forward.
Okay, so you think that how many weeks do we have till the election?
Well, the
like
election is on November 3rd. I'm sure we might have some debates.
Under 2 months. So do you think in that period of time, what you're trying to say and Bob Burke's position on some of these things can just be explained, and the majority of the people in Bethel are going to say, maybe we had it wrong, now I understand, and he's going to be reelected? Is that what you think?
Let me ask your personal opinion. If it turns out that through the process Bob Burke did not commit a crime, but was demonized for doing such, and he may have had a personal misjudgment, but that's between him, his wife, and God. And for the Republican Party to drag his personal life into the election process in September is shameful. It's as low as low goes.
It may be shameful and all these other things, but the fact of the matter is, the way the system works, it's a democracy. I don't know if you had that Norman Rockwell picture, David. In the end, it's the voters that decide.
Correct.
And they've decided twice, once at the caucus and now in the primary.
At the caucus, before they walked out to vote.
That's wrong image, buddy.
At the caucus, before they walked out to vote, they were told by Nick Ellis that Bob Burke was going to be arrested.
Well, I kind of think he was. Wasn't he?
There's a lot of innuendo that was going on prior to that coming up, and I think I read it in a couple of articles. That was the biggest secret in Bethel that was out to everybody. Everybody knew about the situation. A rumor, innuendo, or whatever. Look. Let me just put you like this. Bethel is known historically for these types of mudslinging type of stuff. I learned politics originally in Bethel before I ventured into Danbury's sewer, and I've seen it. This is not new. This is not new. It's only new to people who don't know Bethel.
Yeah.
Given that a lot of residents of Bethel are used to this type of stuff. We saw this going on with Jason Bartlett and Melanie O'Brien in the last election. Don't you think that the people of Bethel who voted in the primary, who might vote in the general election, are a little smarter to take all that, what I consider so much static, that mudslinging stuff, and let's just look at the issues and just pick, based upon the issues, who they feel is the best candidate to lead their town for the next 2 years.
And now all the Bethel voters will have that ability to look at who has stuck to the issues, who has accomplished what they've set out to do, and who's told the truth.
So you guys have crunched the numbers, and you think you're going to pick up enough Democrats to offset the split in the Republicans and prevail?
Believe he's the best candidate for the town.
All right.
Him and Bill.
Well, I mean, that's why they have elections, and stranger things have happened.
And look,
I had really hoped I could cover more of how.
Well, can you give us the highlights? I think you got Ellis is in all kinds of trouble or did bad things a long time ago.
I think what the important thing is how somebody who comes into the picture that starts to uncover layers of truth is demonized, as you're seeing from the protesters in Washington. You're seeing these
So who
people,
was demonized? Bob Burke was demonized?
The superintendent of schools sent a letter out to the Board of Education stating that I created a campaign video which used hate speech, labeled others un-American liars, and was in violation of the military code of conduct. That is defamation, slander, and libel. He sent it out. I have a copy here for you.
I understand, but again, let me just...
No, the video is online and everyone can see it.
Is that still on YouTube?
I am under debate. I'm in discussion with the 1st Marine Division right now.
No, has it been removed from YouTube?
It was taken down from YouTube because Dr. Chesley told... Hold on, this is important.
No, go ahead, please.
For full disclosure, this is important.
No, go ahead, please.
Dr. Chesley told the Marine Corps that video was being used for a political campaign. And you cannot use or in any way associate any military video with a political campaign. That, too, was a lie.
All right, let me just say this again. I'll just use it. I'll be real quick, because we're running out of time, and we got to get some video footage from the primary.
Understood.
Again, and I just want to reinforce this again. People in Bethel are used to this type of stuff.
Correct.
From Matt Paulson to Billy Michael to Bob Cernick to Paul Improda and Alice Hutchison, Judy Novacek, all that stuff. People are used to this type of stuff going on in the undercurrent of stuff, this mudslinging and all this stuff, back and forth, back and forth.
And we're
not saying that what you're not saying is legit or
but we're getting tired of it.
But again, don't you think the voters get to a point where they're like, look, we're not listening to this stuff. We're going to base our vote based upon the facts, based upon the issues that are pertaining to me in my pocketbook. Is my road paved? Can I get to point A to point B safely? Is my kid going to a quality school?
Psychology teaches us no, that's not the case. Psychology teaches us that we react off impression. And what has been the impressions put out through the media on Bob Burke?
Well, okay, well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We had to go to you were there. You took some videotape of some of the people were just talking about. If we had that queued up, why don't we go to the videotape?
All right.
And I appreciate it. I'm sorry we didn't have
time.
Yeah, we could have given you more time.
Yep.
If you have the videotape, we'll go right to it.
Here, quiet, please. Absentees? All districts. Gravis, 21. Burke, 20. Sikowski, 22. Slifkin, 19. District 4. Gravis, 69. Burke, 108. Sikowski, 72. Slifkin, 102. As the other districts come in, and I get the reports, we'll read those results off also. Gravis, 30.
All right, I'm here at the Republican primary. I'm standing here with First Selectman Bob Burke, who just got the word that you've lost the primary. But you have told me in the past that you will be moving forward on the pro-Bethel ticket. So I just want to get your opinions about the primary and where you're going from here.
Well, 3rd of November, you'll have a chance to vote. I'll be on the pro-Bethel line. That's the only line I will be on. We lost by about 170 votes here tonight. And it was a very, very light turnout. I'm disappointed in the turnout. It was a beautiful day, but when it's presented, I'm kind of an ugly duckling at this point. And when it's presented to the whole town, there's 5,000 unaffiliated voters that hadn't had a chance to do anything, and there's some Democrats that I'm pretty fond of too. My mother and father were Democrats, so we'll keep going forward.
How do you feel about tonight, and how do you feel about going forward towards November?
I'm excited about going forward because, like Bob said, there's 5,000 unaffiliates that will get the message, and I'm sure they'll do what they have to do.
All right, I'm here with the official Republican nominee for First Selectman, Mr. Larry Kravis. Congratulations for your victory here. And what are your feelings right now, seeing that you have won the endorsement of the Bethel Republican Town Committee, and today you have won the general vote from the Republicans in your area?
I'm feeling terrific. I think our message resonated with the people in town, with the Republican voters. We tried as best we could, as I told you when we were on your show, to stay above the fray and talk about the issues and the opportunities. I had a particular challenge where I had to help people understand who I was and what my credentials were to do this job, and to have them believe that I was the person to lead Bethel forward. We had a slogan, better ideas and better for Bethel, and I believe people responded to that. Mr. Burke has got a lot of following in town, and he's accomplished many things, but I believe this town needs the business experience and people management experience that both Paul and I will bring to the next 2 years.
That's very great. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I know it's a big victory for you, and we got a three-way race here, so I'll be seeing you a lot more on the campaign trail, and I'll see you in November.
That's for sure. I thank you. When we were on your show, you were very fair and asked some very pointed questions, and that's good. You got everybody to talk and think, and we appreciate that.
Well, I'll have some more pointed questions for you along the campaign trail.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Al.
Okay, I'm here with Mr. Zakowski, now the person who won the primary, so he's actually the absolute official person running for the selectman ticket. How does it feel knowing that you got the Republican nomination and now you got the vote of the Republicans in the entire area?
Very good. Basically, I think the Republicans in the area have recognized for the past 4 years as the incumbent, I've done my job quite well. There were discussions of saying that I only did not work with the current first selectman. However, that's a little bit distorted because the selectman is only a legislative type. When you have the first selectman and a selectman together, that's a quorum. You can't do such things. That's illegal. But when you take a look at the results, and I'm glad that the community recognized my results as a selectman, it's a good, rewarding feeling.
Okay. Now, I asked your chairman of the Republican Party this, and I'll ask you this as well. Seeing that we're going to go into a three-way race, are you worried of like a Ralph Nader effect in which Bob Burke can actually split the Republican vote and give Matt Knickerbocker an advantage in terms of winning this election?
First of all, vice chairman only, not chairman. Paul and Prota's the chairman. That's a possibility. It's always a possibility. However, I think what we're going to do is present the facts as we have been doing all along in this little primary campaign. Now we're going to have to expand upon it. Also, there's another, if you're concerned about the Bethel Pro Party endorsing Mr. Burke, we have been also cross-endorsed by the Independent Party. So the two essentially should wipe each other out.
I am here with the man in charge of the Republican Town Committee, Paul and Prota. Let me get your thoughts on the primary today, seeing that your candidates, your endorsed candidates, won the primary. Where do we go right now in terms of the entire campaign?
Well, our campaign obviously is going to change to, we're going to mobilize and campaign and try to contrast the difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. We have some very good candidates. The people in Bethel, the Republicans came out and affirmed Larry Kravis and Paul Zatkowski. So tomorrow we begin again anew. I mean, we're going to hit the ground running. And we have to obviously raise funds, organize people, and employ a lot of shoe leather. So that's our plan from now until November 3rd.
Let me ask you a couple of questions real quick. Now, this primary is over. It looked like it was a little over 100 votes or so between the two candidates. We're running into a three-way race now with Mr. Burke still on the ticket. Are you a little concerned about the Republicans being split on this ticket and giving Matt Knickerbocker an advantage in getting winning this race?
Well, I think that Mr. Burke needs to think hard about whether he wants to persist in this. It's a losing battle. He's not going to be able to raise any funds. If he does, it's going to be minor. He'll be viewed as the spoiler. I don't think that he'll pull in a whole lot of votes if he runs. So our first objective, obviously, is to try to convince the pro-Bethel Party that this is a losing cause. Yeah, obviously the Democrats and Matt Knickerbocker are a formidable slate. They've been working hard for the last 2 years. I mean, you may be familiar that they come to all of the major boards with their cameras, and they're looking to put together a very comprehensive campaign. So our idea, obviously, is that we're going to try to counteract any kind of perception they have of the Republican Party, and I think that we began that tonight with Larry Krabus and Paul Zatkowski as a new day in Bethel for the Republican Party.
Okay, I'm here with the Democratic nominee for First Selectman, Mr. Matt Knickerbocker. The Republican primary is now finished, and Larry Krabus is now the official Republican candidate for First Selectman. On the Democrat side, I'm sure you've just been sitting back, maybe eating popcorn, waiting on this whole thing to unfold here. Now that the primary is over, and now we see a possibility, a great possibility of a three-way race. What are you going to be doing towards November in terms of getting your message out to the people?
Well, first let me say I'd like to extend my congratulations to Mr. Krabus. I have served with Mr. Krabus for the past 2 years on the Board of Ed. He is a fine gentleman. He's worked very hard for this moment, and I offer him my congratulations. Now, having said that, I can assure you that we haven't been sitting back eating popcorn. We've been working very hard in my campaign. Rich Straighten and I have been walking, going door to door, campaigning very hard for the past 2 months. We really kicked off our campaign in earnest probably around the middle of June. So we've been hard at work. And, you know, whether or not I'm running against Mr. Krabus, Mr. Burke, or both, really doesn't matter. It doesn't change our message that we can do a better job with Bethel, that the people of Bethel deserve to have a stronger town government, that we can keep our roads in good shape, that we can keep our schools in good shape at the same time that we keep taxes down. Those are not mutually exclusive goals. So we're continuing to work hard to get that message out to the people of Bethel.
All right, well, look, thank you very much for your time. I'll be seeing you on the campaign trail. I'm sure I'll have a lot more questions, and I'll be following Bethel very closely.
I'll be here to talk to you anytime, Al. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Ideas of Work and Beyond. Well, there you have it. All the players in Bethel Republican politics, and it is an interesting, passionate group. And I think that they have made a decision, and so we'll see how it turns out in the general election. But I want to thank all the people, all the candidates, Larry and coming in, and Bob Burke coming in. And if nothing else, you got to appreciate their passion for the process and their ability to go out there and put their heart on the line and seek your votes. There's a famous poem. Earlier, it was part of a speech given by Teddy Roosevelt and talked about the man in the arena. We don't have time for me to recite it to you, but it says the credit goes to the man who is in the arena, who's actually, you know, done his best and worked hard and knows the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, not to the timid souls that look from the outside in. So, if nothing else in Bethel politics, you have men in the arena, and we appreciate them coming on the program. I am delighted to have State Senator Dan DiBasella, who is joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
I don't know if you know this, but I first got to know you through your website.
Yes.
Where you have those little video vignettes on like the state budget with graphs, and I love that stuff because when we were talking about the state budget, it was very good.
Oh, that's great.
But I've gotten to know you a little bit better. A Harvard-educated young man, but we won't hold that against him.
No, of course not.
Harvard-educated, so he's smarter than us.
Well, I went to WestCon.
Oh, you went to WestCon. Anyways,
hey, quality education.
Harvard-educated, in the state Senate, but you have your eyes on the United States Congress for Jim Hines' seat. What are some things that you want to do if you're elected to Congress?
Well, Marty, I think you see that people are not happy right now with what's coming out of Washington.
Well, that depends who you talk to. Some people are delighted. Others are having their doubts.
The average folks I talk to on the street who aren't involved in politics are saying, you know what, we like Barack Obama, but we don't like these policies that are coming out, whether it's on government-run health care or whether it's on a pork barrel stimulus package that aren't doing enough to actually stimulate the economy. And what I want to do is I want to actually bring free market solutions to Congress and to America for these topics, whether it's on health care, where I actually believe we can lower health care costs for the middle class and cover more of the uninsured by focusing on cost containment, or whether it's on the economy, where I think we need to focus on helping small businesses create jobs rather than the pork barrel stimulus package to actually get the economy moving.
Okay. Any thoughts, questions?
Well, I mean, we're short on time, and if you want to talk about it, you continue on the congressional stuff. I want to talk about a few state topics, but if you want to continue with his run for Congress, you go right ahead.
Yeah,
actually, let's just do real quick. Since you're outside of the Comcast cable only covers a certain portion of the 5th District Congressional and a small portion of the 4th, which is only just Ridgefield. And you're a state senator from way outside this area. So for the people who don't really know you in the viewing audience, tell us a little something about yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm the state senator from the eastern part of Fairfield County, which is Shelton, Stratford, Monroe, and Seymour, and obviously running for Congress for the 4th Congressional District, which includes Ridgefield. You know, I was born in Bridgeport. My dad was a cop. My mom's a secretary. I was the first person in my family to go to college. And most of my life I've been in business. I worked for a company called McKinsey & Company down in Stamford, was director of strategy for Pepsi, and most recently I'm vice president of marketing up at the Hartford Insurance Company. And ran for the state senate in 2006, and I'm the ranking member on the appropriations committee up there. So for better or for worse, was at the center of this huge budget battle that we had this year.
Were we the last state in the union to actually pass a budget?
Second to the last. Pennsylvania still hasn't passed the budget, so if we could say anything, we're not the worst.
Now, this is a trick question because I know the answer, but you know about Tax Freedom Day, the day when you have worked enough to give all your money to the state, local, and federal taxes, and out of 50 states, you know, which is the latest?
It's Connecticut.
It's Connecticut. It's like April 29th or something.
That's right.
Like that.
That's
so
right.
What are you doing up in Hartford to try to stem the tide of this runaway spending and taxation that we experience?
Well, I was very proud this year to be the co-author of a no-tax increase budget that we proposed to actually balance our $8 billion deficit through cutting spending, mostly through moderate spending cuts to reset programs to 2007 levels. So I was proud to be a co-author of that. I was proud to vote for that. Unfortunately, it didn't pass. The budget that did pass doesn't cut a lot of spending, only about $200 million, borrows over $1 billion, and raises taxes by about $1 billion as well.
Do you think it was, in hindsight, it was not the smartest move from the governor not to sign that budget?
You know, I do wish that the governor had vetoed the budget.
There's certain things that she could have done right now that she can't do because she didn't sign the budget.
No, that's right, and I understand exactly where she's coming from in not signing it. She didn't support the tax increases, and she said that for 7 months. I had wished that she had vetoed it. I think that the people were on her side and still are in saying that we should cut spending rather than raise taxes. But I also understand she's the governor and has to govern. And we didn't want to be without a budget in December. We didn't want to be the last state in the union without a budget. So I understand why she let it become law.
Do you know how the governor in California handled this and how he was able to get spending under control? I was trying to do some comparisons, but are you familiar with what they did out there?
I am, and actually Governor Schwarzenegger has the advantage of they have a law out there that you need 2/3 of the legislature to actually raise taxes. Here we only need a simple majority. So the governor was able to negotiate with the Democrats who control their legislature to get a budget package that didn't raise taxes. Unfortunately, here in Connecticut, where we have 2/3 majorities of Democrats in both the House and the Senate, who, you know, honest disagreement, but they believe we need higher taxes, unfortunately they were able to impose their will.
Wow, because I was reading about California, and I thought, my gosh, you know, maybe there is a fresh wind of fiscal responsibility, because even California is saying they've got to roll back their spending. They can't just continue to tax and tax and tax, especially in the economy the way it is. I
That's
mean,
true.
It makes it. All right. Jim Himes is the candidate. He's a first-time congressman. What do you feel are some of his strengths and weaknesses? I mean, to me, you know, for one thing, he said, well, I won't go into that, but he was supposed to appear on this show, but then at the last minute didn't.
That's too bad.
I think he did appear with you in that healthcare kind of a quasi-town hall. But what do you feel are some things that you would bring that he doesn't have?
Well, I think on the good side, Jim Himes is a good person and a true believer, and he believes what he says. I just happen to believe that what he is promoting are the wrong solutions. Right? If you take on health care, where Jim Himes in the health care forums quite clearly said he supports expanding government-run health care to cover the uninsured. And what that implies is that it is going to mean taxes on the 94% of us who have have health insurance will go up to pay for health insurance for the 6% who don't. I actually think there's a much better way. A better way, rather than government-run health care, is to fix the system we have right now by bringing costs down through things like preventative medicine, electronic medical records, malpractice reform.
Now, when you say malpractice reform, not to interrupt, but are we talking tort reform? Are we? I mean, how are you on the Trial Lawyers Association? Have they put a bunch of money in?
They have not, and I don't think they will be, because I firmly support capping non-economic damages at $250,000.
And they did that out in California too.
They did. And so if California's doing it, and they're a more liberal state, we should be doing the same thing, both here in Connecticut and down in D.C.
Boy, your donations from the Trial Lawyers Association are drying up.
I think Jim Himes is going to get a lot more than I am from them.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to,
no,
some of these seem like common sense, bipartisan approach to health care without, you know, taking over, having the federal government take over the whole system.
And I think that's the goal. We need to try to be bipartisan here, right? Electronic medical records that President Obama supports, it is in the health plan. Those are the things that we need to focus on, where we can get broad support from all segments of society, Republicans and Democrats, to pass health care reform.
I did hear someone say when you order a pizza from Domino's, it's electronically and digitally punched in to get your pizza. When you go to the doctor and you get a script for something like that, it's all, you know, pretty archaic hard copy file.
Our medical profession is coming into 1989 in terms of technology, so we need to make a leapfrog there.
Yeah, okay. And what do you think, I mean, just politically speaking, I know we're kind of handicapping this a little bit, but it would seem like 2010 should be a fairly opportunistic year for the party that's out of power right now. I mean, anyone that has a gripe with the government is going to be looking for change. And do you think that that's a good year for you to be running?
Well, I think it's a good year that's going to present a very clear choice. Is, you know, when Barack Obama first ran, he ran on change, but didn't really fully define what we were going to change to. Now we know, and we can see clearly what Jim Himes has supported and what the President has said. And I think 2010 is going to be an opportunity to say, well, geez, there's actually two different visions for how to fix the economy, how to fix healthcare, how to fix transportation. And people are going to have a real choice between Jim Himes and myself to say, well, who do I agree with how we should solve the problems facing Fairfield County?
Real quick, I think you're a two-term state senator.
That's correct.
Right now. You're from the 21st District. And I'm just saying, a devil's advocate here, you have an ID problem in terms of the entire 4th District. We're talking like lower Fairfield County. How are you, with such a small amount of time, going to be able to reach out to the 4th District, hit all the town committees, and get your name out to the entire 4th District and have a challenge, and have an opportunity to raise money and challenge Jim Himes? Because, as you know, Jim Himes has a pretty good war chest right now. So what is your strategy in terms of getting your name out there to the electorate?
Well, this show is a good start, but we're going to be doing a lot. Obviously, if you look where Jim Himes was when he first challenged Chris Shays, nobody knew who he was either. He had never run for elected office before. And he did exactly what I'm doing, which is going around to the different communities, letting them get to know me, presenting my ideas, and we are raising money. Jim Himes has accepted close to $500,000 from special interest groups in Washington. I don't have the ability to do that. I actually need to rely on individuals, but we're actually going to be matching Jim Himes almost dollar for dollar in terms of how much we're raising from individuals. He will have an advantage with the special interest money, there's no doubt about it, but we're going to have to rely on individuals and, quite honestly, the power of our ideas to convince people to vote for us.
Okay. And real quick, I want to bring it back to the state level, because there's one thing that's happening in a special session next week that is near and dear to my heart for a certain reason. And I know up today that Larry Cafaro and the Republican leadership urge the passage of local mandate relief. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The state has literally dozens of mandates that we put on municipalities that say, you know, the town of Ridgefield or the city of Danbury have to do X, Y, and Z, but the state's not going to pay for them. You have to pay for them through local property taxes. What we've proposed is actually eliminating some of them, such as there's a mandate on in-school suspension, that you can't suspend somebody and have them go home. That's very costly to municipalities, drives up property taxes. We say, let the towns decide. Maybe Ridgefield decides one thing, Danbury decides something different, rather than having the state impose it. And we say that if we're going to impose new mandates, it should require a 2/3 vote of the General Assembly so that it is truly something that everyone agrees on, because these mandates do drive up property taxes.
Okay, now, it's one of these things that came up, and I'm good friends with Christine Stewart from CT News Junkie, and we both commented in the News Times about this particular thing. And it's a delay in a mandate requiring local governments to post minutes and meetings of agendas on their websites. They're saying that that will cost money. My argument to that is this. As somebody who does a lot of stuff on the internet, and as well as Christine, we all know that when you post minutes and when you do the minutes in a local municipality, it has to be available in the city hall so people can come down and read the minutes. Most of that stuff is usually done on Microsoft Word or word processing programs. To post that up on the internet is probably like about a one-click, save as a PDF file, and you post it up on the internet. It shouldn't cost a lot of money. Why has there been such resistance, and this goes well beyond the relief, why is there such resistance on posting of minutes and agendas on websites, on municipalities? Because it's all about giving more information out there to the people.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's opposed to that. I think most towns actually do it. I know my towns in Shelton and Stratford do it. I think the question is, for a lot of the smaller towns like New Hartford that may or may not have a website at all yet for their town, this could be an expensive thing for them. Not a super expensive, probably costs all of $500 to put a website up, right?
If I'm correct about, I'm sorry to interject, but if I'm correct, the bill that passed said if you have a website, you were mandated to do this. If you don't have a website, you don't have to do this. So if New Hartford doesn't have a website to their municipality, they don't have to follow that law.
It's a very valid point. I think the point is that Hartford shouldn't be telling towns in a uniform fashion what they need to do. You know, and I believe that transparency in government's a very good thing, and I think that every town should put their minutes up on their website as fast as they can get them up. However, I don't think we in Hartford should be telling the folks in the towns what to do, just like I don't think folks in D.C. should be mandating to every state how we should be running education. So I'm a big believer in local control of government. I think that people at the grassroots level and at local levels know better than the bureaucrats and the politicians in Hartford or Washington.
All right, and do you think this whole thing is going to pass in a special session next week? Have you heard any word from Donovan or the leadership?
I would seriously doubt it if it's going to pass. The Democrats have been very resistant in the past to mandate relief. There might be some limited mandate relief, like I believe that we are going to delay the implementation of the in-school suspension mandate, but the wholesale reform, I actually unfortunately don't think will pass next week.
Okay.
Well, listen, I want to thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Do you have a website, and can we put that up if people want to have more information about you? Or just Google the guy. When you do, you'll get these various websites and
it's all over YouTube.
That's right.
All over YouTube, and it's really compelling stuff. Well, listen, I wish you all the luck in the world.
No, thank you.
I'm going to be voting for you.
Well, thank you.
I won't vote for Jim Himes. I will be voting for you.
Because he didn't come on the show?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. Not that he didn't come, but his communication director absolutely said he was coming, and we formed a whole show around him, and he gave us the heave-ho. So, anyways, but I appreciate your perspective on things with the government, and I think we're taxed way too much, and I like your style. The fact that you went to Harvard doesn't hurt. If we can put up this wine tasting invitation, Dave, if you have that, that's going to be tomorrow night. If you want to come in and really drink a lot of wine and act like it's for a good cause, then by all means, join us in Ridgefield at the Keeler Tavern from, I don't know, 7 o'clock. Next week, we're going to have a roundtable discussion on health care. The week after that, we have a gentleman from Waterbury who's going to be running for Chris Dodd's Senate seat.
Sam
Yeah, Sam's going to be right here in our studio. But thanks a lot. Thanks you for joining us. No racism in politics, and Jimmy Carter, don't ever accuse me of being a racist, ever. Thanks again for coming in.
Thanks, Marty.
We'll see you next week on Ideas of Work and Beyond.